Hey, it's Mark Lanier with your video thought for the day. So if you can see behind me, I'm coming to you from Washington, D.C. today. That's the Capitol way off there. And it's kind of cool to think about. We've got the U.S. Congress, we've got the Senate, the House of Representatives, we've got the U.S. Supreme Court, we've got the president, the vice president. We have halls of power in Washington, D.C. And I feel like it's just this close to people who not only could change our lives, but who changed the world. And it's kind of incredible to think of that much power concentrated in one area. And that's what's going on here. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't really think I've got an ability to go over there and talk to anybody and do anything too direct. But just being here and sensing that power makes me want to use it for a video thought for the day. Why? Because this week I'm talking about the effect of the resurrection on the believer. This is the post-Easter video thought for the day. And so today I want to talk about the fact that Paul points out that the power of God's Spirit that resides in the believer is the power, the ability of a resurrecting Spirit of God. The very Spirit of God that resurrected Jesus is at work in the life of the believer. We've got access to more power than we could ever have in Washington, D.C. or any place on earth. And the question becomes, how do we access that power? Because I think so many people live without regard to the power that's available within them. We live subjected to misery and just enslaved by passion and desire and selfishness and emotion and trapped in sin and snared by all sorts of vices that we wish we could escape from. And yet we're told that the power of God is at work within us, the resurrecting power of God. So I would suggest one way we can start to walk in more power is to realize it, to understand it. Paul said to the Romans in the 12th chapter, don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Now, Paul was not a neuroscientist, but through inspiration, he understood how important it is for our minds to be transformed. And that's part of us learning to walk in the power of God. We're not just nature and nurture. We're not just our genes plus our environment. We actually can choose what we do and how we live. And that means we can walk by the power of God in a renewal of our minds. We can choose to affect the way we think. We can feed our minds positive things, and scientists will talk about the neural connections that are made. So that when we need comfort, we learn to go to Scripture instead of comfort food. When we need sustaining, we learn to go to God in prayer. When we've got worries and concerns, we take them to the Father. These are all things that we can do as believers with the Spirit of God in us, and it will rewire our brains. It will renew our minds. We will start accessing a power to transform our lives that frankly we could never have any other way. So as we think about the resurrection this week, think about that same power at work within you. More power than is in Washington, D.C. or any place on this earth. That's at work in you and in me, and we have access to that like we could never imagine. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow, but that's your video thought for the day.